في كتير طرق وسط الحياة تاهوا فيها ناس، وطرق تبان مفروشة ورد وتنتهي بألم وضيق، لكن الطريق للفرحة وطريق الخلاص عند المسيح. أصل المسيح هو الحياة، هو الطريق. الطريق 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 الطريق
Welcome back to The Way TV. Always glad to be back. Been away for a while. ISIS is preparing to attack the United States. It's probably not going to be for a while. I know a lot of people think it's going to be happening in a few days. Although they've already attacked us, we have people dead all over the United States already. And I know there's a lot of naysayers out there. And one of the key qualities of a leader is that the leader finds a message, sticks with it, and doesn't change. So this first clip is only for a couple of minutes, but it's all about Noah. And remember, Noah was quite a leader, and for 120 years, Noah, he was banging on that drum, there's going to be a flood, there's going to be a flood, and the people laughed at him, and they ridiculed him, and then all of a sudden, the flood came, and then instead of laughing, they turned their laughter into screaming and begging to go on to the ark, but they weren't allowed on. What'll happen sometime in the United States in the next 5 years to 50 years, all-out gigantic battles as big as Gettysburg will happen. And again, I know a lot of you are out there naysaying, and then some of you are even saying, well, prove it. Well, epistemologically, that's pretty funny because proving the future is impossible. So with no further ado, clip number 16. Clip number 16.
Time is now. Give us the strength to do your will and weather the storm.
No! Papa, please!
Rachel! Japheth! God is closing the door! Hurry!
Mina, thank you very much for doing it. I really appreciate it. Mina's doing a great job. Mina's got to be an ambassador. He's got to be in there kind of like an attorney and a technician and everything else. But the point of that clip was to show that a leader has to put up with a lot of grief for a long time. For Noah, it was 120 years. I started talking about this stuff the day after they flew the airplanes in the World Trade Center. That was way back in 2001. We're 13 and a half, almost 14 years from there. A lot of people, I've lost a lot of friends. I've gained a lot of friends. And a lot of friends that I lost have come back and have apologized to me. But in any case, it's going to take time. And again, for those of you who are naysayers, who are going into logical positivism, which means if it's not available to the five senses, to sight, to smell, to taste, to hear, to touch, that it doesn't exist. Well, that's silly. And that's how atheists get by when they say to Christians, well, prove God. Well, okay, flip it, disprove God. And if God is invisible and not open to the five senses, how are you going to prove him? Now, let me make something real simple on proving that. Logic is not open to the five senses. The laws of mathematics are not open to the five senses. The law written on the heart called the conscience is not open to the five senses. And so for people to come back and say, prove that between 5 and 50 years that ISIS, Daesh, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Abu Sayyaf, Amirs of the Caucasus, all of those different groups that are all doing what Muhammad did are going to come together 100% in America and attack us. That will happen, and it can't be stopped because you have a biologically copulating army that's growing, and when they reach 10%, 100% of the Muslims join together to kill you. Now, one of the things that happened a few days ago in Phoenix, you had 2 members of ISIS shot to death by the police because Pamela Geller, I believe, very presciently and very wisely, was doing a Draw Muhammad contest. Now, I've been asked not to show cartoons on the show because they love their family and they don't want their family injured. I respect that, so I won't do that. On my Facebook page, which I'm blocked again, but on my YouTube, I show the cartoons all the time, and I also have alternate means of getting those messages out. One news commentator said that what Pamela Geller did was like a pyromaniac setting fire to buildings and then going to a judge and asking the judge to be lenient on her. Well, in the kindest way that I can say is that analogy is stupid, because what Pamela Geller is doing is brilliant, because the Muslims in the West, in the UK, in the United States, in France, in Europe, in Canada, in Mexico, and all of the places where they have infiltrated, they're operating under what's called a Mecca phase. When Muhammad was weak, the first 4 or 5 chapters of the Quran, he said, I love the Christians, I love the Jews, and he gained supporters and allies by offering to them PMS, power, money, and sex, which he later did by attacking caravans and getting the power, the money, and the sex slaves to his people. Pamela Geller brilliantly put together the cartoon, Draw Muhammad cartoon, on purpose to get the Muslims to do what they're not ready to do in the Mecca phase. The Muslims are weak. They're all 1% or so, 3.2 million Muslim Brotherhood ISIS supporters in the United States. I don't know, a lot less in Canada because 1%, where they have 30 million people in Canada, so that'd be about 300,000 or so in 30 million. In Europe, where they have over 1 billion people, so that would be like 10 million. Yeah, in Europe with that. No, that would be, yeah, that would be right. 1% would be 10 million. So Geller did a brilliant job. Sadly, the media, for the most part, doesn't understand. The police don't understand because they've been brainwashed and hoodwinked, and they have no clue whatsoever what's going on. We're going to try and see how far we get with this number. Clip number 4. Clip number 4.
Allow me to introduce myself. Hello, my name is Muhammad. I worship false pagan idol.
I cut that intentionally because I'm protecting a lot of my friends, a lot of my people. Okay, but I'm still going to hit pretty darn hard. The Muslims also lie that they invented algebra and all these other things. That's baloney. Muhammad was born about sometime in the 6th century, but algebra was invented by the Greeks a couple hundred years BC, and in fact, going back and researching it in the Tigris-Euphrates River Valley, the algebra was invented about 1500 BC, and then the Greeks refined it a lot more. The only thing that the Muslims did was they coined the name algebra, and they learned from the Assyrians, from the Tigris-Euphrates River Valley, and the Greeks, and they learned from that. They named it algebra, and then they do as they always do. They lied, and they convinced people that they had created algebra. So clip number 6. Clip number 6.
Mitchell, your ignorance and arrogance concerning Islam and the Prophet, peace be upon him, is infuriating. As a Muslim, I am proud of my heritage, a heritage that dwarfs the West. While your armies were crusading around the world, killing innocent people, Khwarizmi, a Muslim, was inventing algebra. Ever heard of that? How about chemistry? How about glass? Or coffee? We invented those things, not you. No other civilization but ours has given the world so much. So think about that next time you buy a coffee at Starbucks and look through the glass window outside. Abdul Hakim. All right, Abdul, I hear you. It seems I've struck a nerve. Seems like somebody also hasn't prayed to Mecca today. But I am profoundly thankful for the coffee. The other stuff, I think you're a little confused. First of all, the Crusades came centuries after Khwarizmi. Thought I'd just point that out. Second, algebra was invented by Diophantus of Alexandria, who did so centuries before Muhammad was even born. Khwarizmi merely wrote down algebra instead of using an abacus. That's more efficient, sure, but it's not inventing algebra. The people who invented the Kindle don't claim to have invented books, do they? Third, Muslims didn't create chemistry. Chemistry's been around long before Muhammad. Ancient Egyptians were actually practicing alembic distillation as far back as 3000 BC. And after Muslims conquered Egypt and Syria in the 7th century, the Muslim invaders appropriated alchemy, but they in no way invented chemistry. For the record, this is how Muslims claim to have invented all kinds of stuff. They show up as an invading force, they enslave people, they force them to convert, and then they slap an Islamic copyright on top of everything those poor people have already invented or accomplished. Listen, Abdul, I'm not saying Muslims haven't come up with anything. I'm just saying that their contributions have been very small when compared to the contributions of Christian civilization. Let's use your glass example. Even though Muslims did not invent glass, they had equal access to it, just like us in the West. So, Christian civilization took glass and made windshields and bifocals, lasers, the Hubble telescope. Muslims made pretty windows or mosques. Pretty mosques in the desert. Same thing with algebra. Christian civilization took algebra and got calculus out of it. That's how we put a man on the moon. Muslims, on the other hand, used it to write ciphers in the sand. That's it. They didn't do jack with it. No Muslims in space, folks. Abdul, it's not that most Muslims are less intelligent. They're just poorly educated. Islam violently opposes critical thinking, and that's why most Muslims have never even read a Quran. They're illiterate, like Muhammad. And that's one major reason why history favors the West. Christianity teaches us to study, to show ourselves approved. But Abdul, thanks for the coffee. Although, given enough time, we probably would have invented that too.
Good. I like that because that breaks through. It shocks. It gets people to understand that Islam lies, and that's part of that Mecca Medina phase. When Muhammad was weak in Mecca, he lied that he loved the Christians and the Jews, and what he did was he was a robber. He was a robber pig, and he was going out and robbing these caravans, and he's like Jesse James, and he got richer and richer and richer and then he was bribing, using power, money, and sex, women that he had captured on the slaves or on the caravans. He gave the women, the beautiful women, to the young men, and he grew up his army, a big army, by doing this. Then when he was strong enough, he threw out the Mecca phase where he was lying that he loved the Christians and the Jews, and then he took his men and went to Medina, attacked and destroyed them, killed them, murdered them, beheaded them, and that's why guys like this Shakir Wahib. He's the guy of ISIS that you see his picture all the time, where he's walking around out there holding a flag, or he's shooting people to death, or chopping off their head. He's an all-around monster. However, he is a good Muslim because according to the Quran, he does what Muhammad did. And 22 verses of the Quran command Muslims to do what ISIS does. This is Shakir Wahib, and he is the leader, one of the key leaders of ISIS in Iraq and Syria, over in that area, fighting and killing. He's the poster boy, and I'm assuming, as a former Marine Corps officer working with Intel, I'm assuming they're protecting him now. The reason I suspect that, I was looking at many photographs of Shakir Wahib, this guy here, and his clothes are always beautiful, spotless, clean, brand new. Weapons with his men, the men to his left there that you see hanging out with a mask on and whatnot. They always have really good weapons. He's always clean. He's well manicured. He's a pretty boy. He's a diva. He's a movie star, basically, for ISIS. Now, this guy is ISIS, Muslim Brotherhood, same thing, no difference. Now, this guy here is a leader of the Muslim Brotherhood for California, and he also supports ISIS. This symbol here with the 4 fingers means that he's a member of Muslim Brotherhood. This symbol here means that he supports ISIS. He is very good friends. This gentleman here is very good friends with the LA Sheriff, the LAPD, the Orange County Sheriff, and the different police agencies. He lives in Corona. His office is in Anaheim. He's good buddies with the Corona police, good buddies with the Anaheim police. And yet he, right here, he's Muslim Brotherhood, and he supports ISIS. Right now, he is operating under the Mecca phase. Very clever. When he is weak here in the United States, so he says, oh, yeah, we love the Christians, we love the Jews, we love the Americans. Now, this Muslim, this guy here, Shakir Wahib, is in the Iraq and the Syria area, a key leader of ISIS. Now, he's strong. He's weak. He's in the Mecca phase, and he says, I love America, love the Christians, love the Jews, love the Constitution, want to be buddies. As soon as you say the truth about Islam, he calls you an Islamophobe, a bigot, a hater, a racist. This guy doesn't call you any names. He just kills you. This guy is weak, Mecca phase, so he lies, taqiyya, says we love America, we love the Christians, we love the Jews, we love the schools, we love everything about America. He's a liar, conducting taqiyya in the Mecca phase, and he is fooling the media like Fox News, CNN, ABC, BBC, Al Jazeera, all these guys. Although Al Jazeera, he's not fooling them because Al Jazeera is a Muslim Brotherhood television show, basically supporting ISIS. Again, so now this guy here, Shakir Wahib, he is strong. So he's strong, and so what he does is he merely does what Muhammad did when he became strong. He kills and beheads, lies and cheats and steals. Okay, Mecca phase, Hussam Ayloush, leader of the Muslim Brotherhood in California, one of the top 1%, probably top 10 leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood, ISIS supporters in the United States. This was what Pamela Geller was trying to do, and she did a great job. She did a wonderful job. She got the Muslims to behave too soon like ISIS. This guy here is the Mecca phase. He's a liar saying he loves everybody. This guy, Shakir Wahib, is telling the truth. He merely goes out and kills people. So Pamela Geller is trying to get people to understand, switch them back and forth. They're the same idea. They're the same concept doing what did Muhammad do? This guy here lies, we love America. This guy here kills everybody and says he wants to kill America. Mecca and Medina phase. So Pamela Geller's Muhammad cartoon was great. Clip number 22, please.
At least 140 Americans are currently fighting for the Islamic State in Iraq or Syria, known as ISIS. And there is some concern that these Americans could come back to commit terrorist attacks in the U.S. These are still technically Americans with valid passports, so how vulnerable are we? Is an attack on U.S. soil by ISIS imminent? We can't be certain. But as of right now, it seems unlikely that one of these Americans would be able to make it back to America and carry out an attack. ISIS does most of their recruiting through social media, so U.S. intelligence is finding it easy to identify Westerners who have made it into Iraq and Syria. Plus, getting from Iraq or Syria to the U.S. without using air travel is almost impossible, so these Westerners will have to pass numerous checkpoints and security stops along the way, including U.S. Customs, which has some of the most rigid security protocols in the world. According to Will McCants, director of the Project on U.S. Relations with the Islamic World at the Brookings Institution, we're going to know who these guys are, and we're going to watch them closely as they transit home. Plus, ISIS doesn't have a history of sending recruits back. In fact, no one in this conflict does. Only about 4 to 6 plots involving 5 to 10 people in the West have come out of this conflict. That includes all foreign nationals who have fought in Iraq and Syria from both Europe and the Americas. And ISIS doesn't currently consider terrorism abroad to be a priority. Other terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda want to end Western influence in the Middle East, and they see attacking Western nations directly as their best chance of establishing an Islamic State. ISIS sees claiming territory in Iraq and Syria as their best chance at establishing an Islamic State, so ISIS may not even be interested in staging attacks in the U.S. So does that make us safe? No. ISIS may not attack us, but their influence does still increase our chances of getting attacked. Al-Qaeda and ISIS are in a recruiting war of sorts, and attacking the U.S. could be a good way for Al-Qaeda to tip the scales in that war. And ISIS's recruiting efforts are working. These efforts include incendiary language that may spur along independent attacks, something along the lines of the Boston Marathon bombing.
Okay, now he said 140 of the ISIS came from the United States, but it's really, if 140 made it over there, I would estimate 1 in 1,000 made it over there. So if you extrapolate, 140 made it over there, but 1,000, for every one that made it, 1,000 didn't, just multiply 140 times 1,000. That's 140,000. 140,000 at 3.2. So that's about 5%. That's pretty darn close to, you can consider at least 5% of the 3.2 million Muslims, but somewhere between 140,000 and 150,000 Muslims in the United States are Muslim Brotherhood and operating, as the man said there, influenced and behaving as ISIS did. They're in different phases. They're either in the United States, in California, they're in New York, Ohio. By the way, the FBI came out this last week, said Ohio is having a terrible time, and probably the most infiltrated state in the United States, of the 50 states, Ohio is probably the most infiltrated with Muslim Brotherhood and ISIS supporters. So these guys here, of this group here, this is one of the key leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States, operating directly with Ohio, Washington, D.C., and the Council on American Islamic Relations, Muslim Student Associations, Muslim Brotherhood, Ikhwan Muslimin. All these guys are working together. Right now they're in the Mecca phase, and they have completely fooled all of the media, and that's why Pam Geller had to go to such great lengths. That's exactly why we made Innocence of Muslims, was to get the Muslims to act too soon. This guy here, Shakir Wahib, is over in Iraq. Now, this guy here is taking the people that is recruited under the supervision of this guy here in the United States. So the two are really working together. And that's why I say, in the future, as this next clip will show, demonstrate, as the Muslim population increases, once they get to 10%, then 100% of them will join together to destroy us. Okay, before I get to that one clip, let's go to clip number 21. Clip number 21.
We want to take a closer look now at what drives young Muslims to wage jihad and what can be done to stop them. It's a psychological and theological battle for hearts, minds, and souls. And ABC's Martha Raddatz met with a Muslim cleric on the front lines.
The images are so sickening. It is hard to imagine how anyone could join the groups responsible. Yet the number of foreign nationals flooding into Iraq and Syria is at an all-time high. From this young Egyptian who once had dreams of becoming a fitness instructor, now transformed into an...
Okay, so psychological and theological, it's very interesting. The two are interrelated like common law. In the common law, we as Christians or Jews, we learned as young children, we learned the story about Noah and the flood, and we learned about the olive branch and the dove and the flood, and we learned about Mount Ararat, and we learned about Father Abraham, and we learned about the chosen people, the Hebrews, the Jews, and Abraham and Sarah and Jacob and Esau, and we learned the stories about Moses delivering the people out of Egypt and splitting the Red Sea and taking them for the 40-year wandering through the desert, and then with Joshua taking on Jericho and Joshua fighting the Canaanites, who basically were the Philistines, and then from Joshua you go to Shamgar and Samson and Gideon and Esther and Ruth and Boaz. We learned all those stories, and a lot of people don't understand when we learned those stories in the Bible, in Christian and Jewish theology, all of those stories keep coming back to a God of just, a God of fairness, a God of equity, a God of do unto others as you would have done unto yourself, a God of do not unto others as you would not have done unto yourself. We learned the common law, the axiological, which is the fancy word, the scientific word for the science of ethics. Axiology, our common law. We as children, we learned that. We learned as Christians and Jews to get along with people because we learned from the Bible, from Esther and Boaz, and from the heroes of Delilah, Samson and Delilah, and later with King David, and then for us as Christians with Peter and Paul, and with Thomas, the doubting apostle, all this stuff. We learned how to treat one another, how to get along, and that's what common law. A lot of people don't understand this, that common law is the basis of all government, and all common law is based on some religion. For example, the 57 Muslim countries, they will have a symbol of Islam in their flags, or it's the basis of their constitution, or it will be their national anthem, and that's all based on their stories, and their stories, their common law as little children, what they learned, as that lady said in that last clip. It's hard to believe, it's hard for people, us of the West, Christians and Jews trained up this way, even atheists. All of us know the stories of David and Goliath and Noah and Moses and splitting the Red Sea and then taking on Pharaoh and the 10 plagues. We all know that, and that's all the basis of our common law, which is based on equity or fairness, doing to others as you would have done it to you. That is our common law, which is the basis of our government. It's actually found in our Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10. It's called the Law of Nations, and we have lots of proof that demonstrates the Law of Nations was based on the 10 Commandments, on equity, on the 2 Great Commandments. Okay. The common law of ISIS, of the Muslim Brotherhood, the common law of this guy here in California, one of the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood throughout the United States, and the common law of Shakir Wahib, the leader of ISIS over in Iraq and Syria, is the same common law. These two guys read the Quran, and they know the Hadiths and the Sirah and the Sunnah and the Sharia. They know them. They're interchangeable. They're interchangeable. Their common law, their axiological decision-making of ethics is based on the common law of what did Muhammad do. Whether it's Shakir Wahib, who's a murdering thug, killer, rapist, child molester over in Iraq and Syria, leader of ISIS, or it's Hussam Aylouch in the United States, who has not committed any crimes that I'm aware of. However, both of these guys have the same common law. And it is this man's job in the United States to convert so many Americans and to work with the Muslim Brotherhood, Council on American Islamic Relations, Muslim Student Association, and the different groups supporting ISIS to set the stage at every mosque throughout the United States. They're basically forward operating bases operating under the Mecca phase, peacefully, underground, waiting their time so that in years, 5 to 50 years, all 100% of the Saudi Arabian funded mosques in the United States will explode and they will begin doing what Shakir Wahim is doing. Both of these guys got their common law from What Did Mohammed Do? We of the West, the Jews, got their common law from the Old Testament, which is basically what did Yahweh do, and his prophets and his great military men like Moses and David and Solomon, all those other guys, which all of their stuff was based on the Ten Commandments, which is based on equity or fairness, doing to others as you would have done unto yourself. Then there's most of us in the United States are Christians of some sort, but both groups have the same common law, and that common law is to try to get along. And as we saw earlier in the clip on the inventions, when we as Christians and Jews, when we invent something like tar for making roads or steel for making blades or cars for driving around or airplanes for driving around, what we do is we try to help one another live in a better life. But what do the true bona fide Muslims, what do these guys want to do? They basically want to take the airplanes, this guy in particular wants to take the airplanes and use them as weapons and fly them into the World Trade Center. This guy here, operating under the Mecca phase of peacefulness, wants to lie and try to get people to understand anybody who tells the truth about Islam is a mean person called an Islamophobe or a bigot or a racist or something of that nature. This guy, he doesn't care. He'll just kill you. This guy is rooting for this guy so that this guy can lie to enough Americans to buy time so that they can get up to 10% and 100% of the Muslims can join together to go out and kill. That's what Pamela Geller was doing. She did not attempt to do it, she did it. She did not fail, she succeeded. When we made the Innocence of Muslims, we had the same idea. And the idea was, what if we could get the Muslim Brotherhood, the Ikhwan Muslimin, the ISIS guys, to come out before they were ready to come out? And that's what happened. And we were actually helped by Obama and Hillary Clinton. Obama and Hillary Clinton were active participants helping to get the word to publicize so that the Muslim world watched the Innocence of Muslims. Without Obama helping us and Hillary helping us, which they did, they went on TV and all over the talk shows and the United Nations, and they tried to blame us making the Innocence of Muslims, that we were responsible for the death of Ambassador Stevens. In God's infinite wisdom, what God did was he took these two buffoons, Obama and Hillary, and got them to lie to get us the publicity out. So then all of a sudden, an Islamic world was not watching the video, but because Obama and Hillary brought it to the attention of everybody, then the whole Muslim world watched the video and they went crazy, started killing everybody and burning things up and doing everything else. So the reason the video worked was because Obama and Hillary were active participants, actively aiding and abetting us, even as they were working to arrest my friend, which they did, and they tried to arrest me, but I have a clean record, so they couldn't. Okay, so let's watch step by step the Mecca phase. We love you, we want you, we love the Constitution, we love the flag, we love our schools. At 1%, 2%, 3%, they get a little more aggressive. By the time 10% comes in, then they're so aggressive that 100% of the Muslims, 100% of the peaceful ones, moderate ones, and 100% of the guys out there chopping off heads and everything join together, and then they kill everybody. Clip number 15.
If you live in the West and are concerned with Islam and the Islamization of your country, this video has a message for you. What Islam is Not was published in the frontpagemagazine.com on April 21, 2008, and is an adaptation from a book written by Dr. Peter Hammond, Slavery, Terrorism, and Islam. What Islam is Not. Islam is not a religion, nor is it a cult. In its fullest form, it is a complete, total, 100% system of life. Islam has religious, legal, political, economic, social, and military components. The religious component is a beard for all of the other components. Islamization begins when there are sufficient Muslims in a country to agitate for their religious rights. When politically correct, tolerant, and culturally diverse societies agree to Muslim demands for their religious rights, some of the other components tend to creep in as well. Here's how it works. As long as the Muslim population remains around or under 2% in any given country, they will be, for the most part, regarded as a peace-loving minority and not as a threat to other citizens. This is the case in United States, Australia, Canada, China, Italy, and Norway. At 2 to 5%, they begin to convert from other ethnic minorities and disaffected groups, often with major recruiting from the jails and among street gangs. This is happening in Denmark, Germany, United Kingdom, Spain, and Thailand. From 5% on, they exercise an excessive influence in proportion to their percentage of the population. For example, they will push for the introduction of halal food, which is clean food by Islamic standards, thereby securing food preparation jobs for Muslims. They will increase pressure on supermarket chains to feature halal on their shelves, along with threats for failure to comply. This is occurring in France, Philippines, Sweden, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Trinidad and Tobago. At this point, they will work to get the ruling government to allow them to rule themselves within their ghettos under Sharia, the Islamic law. The ultimate goal of the Islamists is to establish Sharia law over the entire world. When Muslims approach 10% of the population, they tend to increase lawlessness as a means of complaint about their conditions. In Paris, we are already seeing car burnings. Any non-Muslim action offends Islam and results in uprisings and threats, such as in Amsterdam and in other Western cities, with opposition to Muhammad cartoons and films exposing Islam. Such tensions are seen daily, particularly in Muslim sections in Guyana, India, Israel, Kenya, and Russia. After reaching 20%, nations can expect hair-trigger rioting, jihad militia formations, sporadic killings, and the burnings of Christian churches and Jewish synagogues, such as in Ethiopia. At 40%, nations experience widespread massacres, chronic terror attacks, and ongoing militia warfare, such as in Bosnia, Chad, and Lebanon. From 60%, nations experience unfettered persecution of non-believers of all other religions, including non-conforming Muslims, sporadic ethnic cleansing, use of Sharia law as a weapon, and jizya, the tax placed on infidels, such as in Albania, Malaysia, Qatar, and Sudan. After 80%, expect daily intimidation and violent jihad, some state-run ethnic cleansing, and even some genocide, as these nations drive out the infidels and move toward 100% Muslim, such as has been experienced and in some ways is ongoing in Bangladesh, Egypt, Gaza, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Morocco, Pakistan, Palestine, Syria, Tajikistan, Turkey, and United Arab Emirates. 100% will usher in peace of Dar el-Salam, the Islamic House of Peace. Here, there's supposed to be peace because everybody is a Muslim. The madrasas are the only schools, and the Quran is the only word, such as in Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, and Yemen. Unfortunately, peace is never achieved, as in these 100% states. The most radical Muslims intimidate and spew hatred and satisfy their bloodlust by killing less radical Muslims for a variety of reasons. A quote from the book The Hajj by Leon Uris. Before I was 9, I had learned the basic canon of Arab life. It was me against my brother. Me and my brother against our father. My family against my cousins and the clan. The clan against the tribe. The tribe against the world. And all of us against the infidel. It is important to understand that in some countries with well under 100% Muslim populations, such as France, the minority Muslim populations live in ghettos, within which they are 100% Muslim, and within which they live by Sharia law. The national police do not even enter these ghettos. There are no national courts, nor schools, nor non-Muslim religious facilities. In such situations, Muslims do not integrate into the community at large. The children attend madrasas. They learn only the Quran. To even associate with an infidel is a crime punishable by death. Therefore, in some areas of certain nations, Muslim imams and extremists exercise more power than the national average would indicate. Today's 1.5 billion Muslims make up 22% of the world's population, but their birth rates dwarf the birth rates of Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, and Jews, and all other believers. Muslims will exceed 50% of the world's population by the end of this century.
Very good. Okay, so what I've been saying is this guy here, Mr. Mecca, Hussam Mailoush, lying, Takia, that he loves everybody in America and the West, and he's glad he's here, and he's here to help us all out, and he's going to help the sick and the lame and the lazy, and he's going to reform all America. His goal is to get his common law spread all throughout the United States so that people stupidly will want to convert to Islam, and then they do as that video showed. This guy is already in the Medina phase out killing people. So the two guys working together have the same goal, and that is to change the common law, to change the law of America from our Western civilization based on the Judeo-Christian concept to the what did Mohammed do. It's interesting, in that video right there, as they take control, then you see the closing of the mind, and so that the Muslim, all he really wants to do is memorize the Quran. He doesn't want to take algebra or trigonometry or chemistry or physics or even coffee. He doesn't want to take it to a higher level of comfort, like Starbucks takes coffee and gives you a myriad of selections, hot and cold, and you can drink it in all kinds of great ways that you enjoy it. The Muslim just wants to stick with the coffee that he invented, 14 centuries ago. And in reality, the coffee was invented long before Muhammad was ever born. It's just that they took it over, the Muslims took it over, and then they told the whole world, Allah Akbar, we invented coffee. Allah Akbar, we invented algebra. Allah Akbar, we invented chemistry. Allah Akbar, we were the first people on the moon. we invented airplanes and all these other things. They never, the Muslim mind never goes to do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Both of these guys, this guy in the United States lying under the Mecca phase that he loves us and wants us all to enjoy Islam, and this guy who, if we don't enjoy Islam, he will murder us and rape our little girls. Both of these guys, they have no intention whatsoever of making life more congenial, more favorable, for women to have a nice, pleasant life where they're not beaten and raped. Both of these guys come from the common law of what did Muhammad do. Both of them have 100% goal to take over the West, the UK, Europe, United States, Canada, etc. Both of these guys are very, very dangerous men. And with that in mind, let's take a look at a very dangerous man. Clip number 9, an insane man, Ayatollah Khomeini, having sex with a 4-year-old girl, because that's what Muhammad did. Clip number 9.
لما كان الإمام الخميني مقيما في العراق، هو مش إمام ولا حاجة، إمام في بتوعهم، كنا نتردد إليه ونطلب منه العلم حتى صارت علاقتنا معه وثيقة جدا. وقد اتفق مرة أن وجهت إليه دعوة من مدينة تلعفر، هي اسمها تلعفر كده مظبوط؟
نعم.
طيب، وهي مدينة تقع غرب الموصل على مسيرة ساعة ونصف تقريبا بالسيارة، فطلبني للسفر معه فسافرت معه، فاستقبلونا وأكرمونا غاية الكرم مدة بقائنا عند إحدى العوائل الشيعية المقيمة هناك. وقد قطعوا عهدا بنشر التشيع في تلك الأرجاء، وما زالوا يحتفظون بصورة تذكارية لنا تم تصويرها في دارهم. ولما انتهت مدة السفر رجعنا، وفي طريق عودتنا ومرورنا في بغداد أراد الإمام أن يرتاح من عناء السفر، فأمر بالتوجه إلى منطقة العطيفية. تتنطق كده مضبوط؟
صح.
طيب، حيث يسكن هناك رجل إيراني الأصل يقال له سيد صاحب، كانت بينه وبين الإمام معرفة قوية. وبعدين فرح سيد صاحب بمجيئنا، وكان وصولنا إليه عند الظهر، فصنع لنا غداء فاخرة، واتصل ببعض أقاربه فحضروا وازدحم منزله احتفاء بنا. وطلب سيد صاحب إلينا المبيت عنده تلك الليلة، هي دي المصيبة. وبعدين فوافق الإمام، ثم لما كان العشاء أتوا بالعشاء، وكان الحاضرون يقبلون يد الإمام ويسألونه ويجيب عن أسئلتهم. ولما حان وقت النوم دخلنا يا دكتور.
نعم.
ولما حان وقت النوم وكان الحاضرون قد انصرفوا إلا أهل الدار، أبصر الخميني صبية بعمر 4 سنوات أو 5 سنوات، لكنها جميلة جدا، فطلب الإمام من أبيها سيد صاحب إحضارها للتمتع بها. وافق أبوها بفرح بالغ، فبات الإمام الخميني والصبية في حضنه، شو بقول إيه، ونحن نسمع بكاءها وصراخها طوال الليل. عيلة 4 سنوات، وهذا الكيت في العمر قاعد بالقوة يعاشر صبية عندها 4 سنوات، يعني من القبل والدبر حتى البنت تبكي وتصرخ ولا رحمة في قلبه. المهم أنه أمضى تلك الليلة يا دكتور، فلما أصبح الصباح وجلسنا لنتناول الإفطار نظر إلي، وهو الصراخ كان فضيحة، نظر إلي فوجد علامات الإنكار واضحة في وجهي. صبية 4 سنين تصرخ، إذ كيف يتمتع بهذه الطفلة الصغيرة وفي الدار شابات بالغات راشدات؟ طب كان يتمتع بواحدة بالغة ولا رشيدة؟ كان بإمكانه التمتع بإحداهن فلم يفعل. المهم فقال لي الخميني بيقول له بقى، سيد حسين ما تقول في التمتع بالطفلة؟ إيش رأيك؟ قلت له سيد القول قولك، قول قولك والصواب فعلك، وأنت إمام مجتهد، ولا يمكن لمثلي أن يرى أو يقول إلا ما تراه أنت أو تقوله، ومعلوم أني لا يمكن الاعتراض وقت ذاك. سيد حسين إن التمتع بها جائز، ولكن بالمداعبة والتقبيل والتفخيذ.
كتاب تحرير الوسيلة صفحة 221 مسألة رقم 12. قال الخميني: لا يجوز وطء الزوجة قبل إكمال 9 سنين دواما كان النكاح أو منقطعة، وأما سائر الاستمتاعات كاللمس بشهوة والضم والتفخيذ فلا بأس بها حتى في الرضيعة. أعوذ بالله من هذا الشذوذ.
Okay, so we're showing all these clips. We're talking about Pamela Geller. We're talking about the cartoons. And so I have to thank Adam and Mina for saying discretion is a better part of the valor and not showing the cartoons. Okay, now, there's 4 phases to Islam. There's Islam is PMS, Islam is RPM, Islam is MPH, and Islam is DAMN. Now, what Pamela Geller did with the cartoons is she went all the way to DAMN. When we made the Innocence of Muslims, it was to go to all the way to DAMN. PMS, Islam is based on what did Muhammad do? Muhammad did power, money, and sex. He offered power, money, and sex when he attacked the caravans. Then he got stronger when he was weak, trying to grow his power, money, and sex. When he was weak, he lied, so we love you all. When he got strong, he went in like ISIS and killed everybody. PMS, that's number 1. Number 2, it's RPM. Islam is RPM, religious, political, and military. What did Muhammad do? He was religious, political, and military. What did Muhammad do? Phase number 3 gets to MPH, Muslims per host, the video we watched. When the Muslims are at 1%, 2%, 10%, 20%, 40%, they act more and more and more violent. And finally, what happens, the world, the people facing Islam. And the 4th phase is always DAM, D-A-M-N, deport all Muslims now. It's the only thing we can do. We can't do it now because there's not enough people who agree. So what Pamela Geller did was she jumped to the 4th phase. Praise God, she jumped the 4th phase to show the world how violent Muslims get. When we work to make the video, Innocence of Muslims, we jump to the 4th phase to show why Islam is so dangerous and that we have to counter it. When we counter it, it'll have to be RPM, religious, political, and military. We will have to share the gospel with them. We will have to have politics based on our common law of the Judeo-Christian system. And it have to be military of not our current military, because sadly, 100% of our military leaders support Muslim Brotherhood and ISIS. Thank you for being on the show. I'll be back next week. God bless you all.
في كتير طرق وسط الحياة